Hello, you wonderful, magical people, and welcome to the third episode of the Fire series. If you are just catching this one as the first episode, I recommend after this you go back and find episode 1 and episode 2, where I am talking about something called the Fire movement. It's a thing. Not right now, but after or in parallel, if you Google fire movement, you'll see that there are plenty and plenty of people who are wanting to become financially independent or retire early. That's what FIRE stands for. It's actually got nothing to do with fire. And in the first episode, I kind of talked a little bit around what the fire movement is. And then in the second episode, I interviewed my dear friend Julian, who unknowingly is part of the fire movement, and how he's done that is in the last 15 years after reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He started investing in property and realizing he can cut down his spend and he didn't need this lavish lifestyle, and now at the age of 47 retiring to his farm. So you can go and catch that in episode 2. And then today, episode 3 is really just about me telling you my experience and my realization around how it is that I'm also part of the fire movement and also answering any questions. So if you're here watching now, type in the comments that you're here live. If you're watching in the replay, type in the comments replay so I can understand who's here live and who's in the replay. And also feel free to ask any questions. So if there's anything that come to mind around things to do with the fire movement, then I can do that. I can answer them for you. So my journey towards the fire movement was really a windy one. If anybody who's watching here who knew me just a few short years ago, I lived a very, very different kind of life than what I do now. And part of my awareness has been by following different thought leaders around what is possible for you. So just a short couple of years ago, some of you would have known, I used to drive a fancy car in Cape Town, and I spent my 30th birthday in New York City. And the truth of the matter is that for most of my life, I've lived with my expenses being to the full capacity of my income. And I've been really fortunate enough to be involved in projects that's been really successful and opened all different kinds of businesses. But the reality is I had no awareness around the idea that unless you start building some kind of asset, you will work until the day that you die. I saw a quote by Rockefeller today saying that if you keep yourself busy with a job, you won't have any time to make money. And that's really the idea. One of the key ideas around the fire movement is that you make a decision around how much is enough. And what I certainly experienced during my fairly lavish lifestyle through a period of my late 20s and early 30s is that for me, my sense of values and fun and joy didn't come from living a life that was fairly excessive, or driving expensive cars, or living in a fancy penthouse. But actually the things that bring me joy, and that answer is unique for each of you, are about being connected to people, and about helping people, and about renovating houses, and about living sustainably. And all of those things really juice me and excite me. And it was only when I started following thought leaders who gave me that food for thought that I was able to really identify what my true values are, and then start adjusting my life accordingly. So how am I adjusting my life accordingly? I really love the idea of building low input businesses. What does that mean? Well, it's a kind of take on the idea of a passive income or semi-passive income business, like passive income. The reality is no income is truly passive. You have to do some work on it. But what I have realized over the last few years is that there's businesses where you work inside your business, i.e. you are your business, service-based businesses, where you're basically creating yourself a job. And there are businesses that you can set up, and that through automation and technology and other people's time, or just the nature of the industry itself, doesn't mean that you have to be there doing the work. And when I had that epiphany, I realized that almost every business I had created in my life so far were service-based businesses where actually I was creating a job for myself. So that has become a real passion of mine, is how many low input businesses can I create, and how many people can I help teach about these low input businesses. So that's really where my passion and my focus lies. But what I became aware of since meeting my mentor in the last 2 years is that business and actively earned income is just one way to earn income. So yes, I focus on low input businesses. Some of you know I'm the Airbnb queen, and that's been really, really a lovely way for me to have taken time off and spend time with my son, getting income through Airbnb, and then a course about Airbnb, so how you can start your own Airbnb. So those are two low input businesses of mine. But the reality is you also want to start generating income from other places. And I had no freaking clue about that. If you'd asked me just 3 or 4 years ago if I was investing, I would have said, I'm not an investor. I don't know the first foggy thing about that. And this time 2 years ago, I joined the world of my mentor, Anne, who I watched a series of videos, which is happening again at this time of year. She launches it every year, a free video series to teach you that it's actually not rocket science, and that there's very easy ways that you, without having to be debt free, so you don't have to wait until you're debt free to start investing or saving. You can start investing in things like the stock market and in property without buying a house yourself. There's actually kind of crowd-funded property investment opportunities. And since then, I've met other people who are doing all kinds of crazy things I never would have dreamed of, like investing in shipping containers. That's actually a thing. And you can do that from like a really low amount. Then, of course, there's crypto. I ended up making a crash course crypto course. There's vending machines. There's all these kinds of things that are low input business, that are investment opportunities that allow you to join the FIRE movement. So if you've just started watching, what the hell is the FIRE movement? It is when you decide what your lifestyle requirement is, truly based on your values, and realizing that there's a certain knowable amount of money that you need every month to live that lifestyle, and that you can stop chasing this kind of never-ending dream of more. And the bigger your salary gets, the bigger your expenses get. Because I lived like that for decades. The more I earn, the more I spend. And at the end of the day, I was always living in this kind of hamster wheel that if I don't keep earning, I can't take any time off. And I'm so relieved to say that I've just kind of unplugged from that whole paradigm, and that actually I'm only about building low input businesses, and I'm only about building assets so that I can take time off. You know, there are thousands and thousands of people in the world. I just saw an emailer coming in from someone I follow called Sarah, who takes 4 months a year off. And that would have seemed ridiculous and impossible for me just two short years ago. So I'm here kind of just sharing with you that if you decide exactly what's important to you, and you adjust your lifestyle, that for some people might mean paring back. It might mean cutting unnecessary expenses. It might mean downsizing. And remember, downsizing doesn't have to mean downgrading. It just means living within a daily amount that's not trying to keep up with the Joneses, that allows you to free up some income and then use your income to build assets, and then the assets fund your lifestyle. It's such a simple but freaking revolutionary idea. So that's really what I'm doing. My dream is to live in a tiny house. I love tiny houses. They're cute, they're designer, they're wonderful, they're functional, they're multifunctional. Different spaces get used in multiple ways. I'd love, in fact, to start a tiny house village where people can come in and taste what tiny house living is about. I've gone through the process of becoming an aspiring minimalist. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you have nothing. It means you just have things that spark joy for you, and not these kind of cupboards filled with crap that you're never going to use. And for me, I'm using the Marie Kondo method, where you literally hold something, and if it doesn't spark joy, you thank it and you pass it merrily on its way to someone else or somewhere else where it might be needed. And what happens is your mind starts to become clearer when you start freeing up the clutter. So minimalism and tiny house living are very much on my radar for my FIRE journey. But having sat down with my mentor Anne in a strategy session with her, I've mapped out exactly what my freedom figure is. So that's the amount of money that you need in assets to be able to not have to actively earn income. And we work backwards, knowing how much I'd have to be building and putting away and investing across different asset groups, and have worked out that by the age of 44, I can surely continue to do this, pass this message on to you, but only out of passion and not out of the necessity to build income. And that's the dream and the gift that I'd want to pass on to any of you who are watching here now. So I'll hang out for a couple more minutes if there's any live questions. If there aren't, then I urge you to go and check out episode 1 and episode 2 of the FIRE series. Or if you're not watching this on my Life by Design group, join my Life by Design group where you'll see the next episodes. Next episode is with my dear friend Johanna, who has made crazy leaps and bounds in her own net worth. That means your amount that your assets are worth since joining Anne's tribe as well. And if you're interested in hearing who this Anne person is and that I keep talking about, part of this FIRE series is inspired by her annual opening of her free workshop where she teaches about what the hell an asset is, what are you doing with your money that's actually sabotaging you. There's actually 4 kind of money flows, she calls them. For me, I was kind of expanding my expenses to match my income and trying out all different things. She calls that the octopus on roller skates. And there's other people who kind of hoard everything and think that saving is the way to their freedom when actually it's not, and a whole bunch more. She's the expert, I'm not. You want to know about low input businesses, online businesses, ask me. You want to know about Airbnb, ask me. You want to know about living off-piste life, kind of off the tracks, off script, ask me. But if you want to know about money and investing and getting your personal shit in order, ask Anne. So what I'm going to do is put the link to her workshop that I did 2 years ago in the comments. And if you want to jump onto that as well and start the journey like I did 2 years ago, then you can join her workshop there. I couldn't possibly have more respect for somebody than I do for Anne and her knowledge and her tribe and her course that she's put together, because I'm in the world of online courses. So I really, really want to encourage you to get there and join her world. Much love. See you for episode 4, where we talk to Hannah, who's based in Canada, who's also on the FIRE journey. She's younger than me. She's the most unlikely candidate in that she's kind of unsure of things and second guessing herself. So I think you'll find her really, really relatable. She's a dear friend of mine. We met in Cape Town in 2010. We used to be roomies, and I'm sure you'll love hearing about her FIRE journey. Bye-bye.